Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. I'm your host, Julie Fairhurst, and I am so pleased to have Katherine Ritchie here with us today. Katherine was an author in one of our past books, actually in 2022. It came out December 2022, and the book's called Women Like Me, Healing and Acceptance. And Katherine has such a beautiful story of healing and acceptance. And so today we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about a little bit about Catherine's story and how hopefully you can break the chains of generational trauma if you're experiencing anything like that in your family. So, Katherine, thank you for being here. I'm just so excited that you're here. This is going to be a great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, Katherine, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Anything you want to share?
Thank you. Um, Hi, I'm Catherine. Um, it's funny to even just start with my name. I've always gone by Kate, and then my partner's name is Kit, and so friends started calling me Kat.
Ah,
And then with my job, my legal signature goes on everything, so people call me Catherine. So I just answer now.
yeah, that's what happens. And you live, do you live on Vancouver Island?
Yeah, I live quite close to the University of Victoria.
Ah, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
and
Such a
I've
beautiful place.
it is. I've been privileged to work here and live here and play since 2007, but I've been on the island since the year 2000.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. A lot of people, they go and then they never want to get off the
Yeah.
island. I
It
have a
wasn't,
sis, I have a sister over there who, yeah, try to get her back on the ferry this direction.
yeah, it was a stark shift from where I grew up, which was East Vancouver.
Yeah.
The busyness of that, compared with the slow down tone and energy of the island, this is definitely where I'd like to stay and raise my daughter compared to
Aw,
a bigger
yeah.
hub or
Yeah,
city.
beautiful. Well,
Mhm.
Catherine, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story that you wrote in the book?
Mhm. Yeah, so I grew up with my biological mom and my little brother, who was 6 years younger than me. And my mother came from a few generations of abuse and violence and alcoholism in her family. And unfortunately, she carried on a lot of those patterns into my childhood. And I didn't recognize it as a child. I didn't see what was going on. I just remembered my mother being in her weird moods, as a child can understand. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older that I started to recognize it was when she was drinking that she was in these weird moods, and things became clearer and began to escalate. Um, and so as a preteen, I had a friend who was going through a difficult time, and she wrote me a letter, and she was describing suicidal ideation. And it was a private letter my mother found in my room. And she told me she didn't want me to talk with this friend anymore. And I tried to explain how I was her main support and I didn't want to leave her. I was worried about her well being. And my mom put her hand around my neck and then got right in my face and said, um, "You're not going to talk to her again." And I was holding a pencil because I was doing homework. And she said, "What are you going to do? Stab me with the pencil?" And I was just struck, just dropped it. And she said, "Now go have a shower and get over it." Just, oh my God.
Mm.
And
Pretty traumatic thing.
this wasn't the first time she'd been physical. I would say she never struck me. There was nothing, no beatings or anything like that. It was a lot more of a 3 a.m. wake up to go catch a spider or to go help her rearrange the furniture in the living room or to dance with her on like a Wednesday at 2 a.m. Those sorts of bizarre things.
Mm.
So I confided in my school counselor the next day. And I told her, my mom's going to be so angry that I'm not returning home after school today. If you call a social worker and they have to come talk to me, there's no way I can go home because she's going to be just so mad. So either you keep this between us and I'll confide in you, Miss School
Yes.
Counselor,
Yep.
or if you have to report this, then I'm not going home because my mom's just going to be so mad at me. Um,
Mm.
and she said, I have to report it. And so I was in and out of classes all day. And around 3:30, I was in the school counselor's office and I could hear my mom enter the school yelling, drunk, where's my daughter? What the fuck? And, you
Oh.
know, choice words for anyone in her path. And school counselor stood up and left the office, and I closed the door and locked it. So I locked myself in the school counselor's office, and my mom is now yelling at the school counselor. And I go to the back of her office and I hide underneath the desk.
Mm.
And I'm just holding my knees and I'm rocking, and I can hear my mom banging things and yelling at any admin staff at the front desk. Um, and I come out from underneath the desk and I notice that there's a window that I could escape, things that go through your mind.
Yeah.
And then I go to the door of the school counselor's office, and it's one of those rectangular glass windows with the wires. And I just remember thinking, thank God the wires are there. Like she
Yeah.
could get through the glass. uh, and I can see her. And then the school counselor comes back into the office and she says to me, Catherine, your mom's arrived. She's very upset. It's looks like she's been drinking, and we're going to have to wait for the police to arrive to hold her back so that we can get you out of the school. And there's a social worker that's going to come and take you into their care for the evening. And I was like, wow, I'm going to be so grounded.
Oh dear.
um,
Wow.
So the police show up, and the exit out of the office was a very narrow hallway. So there was a police standing on either side of my mother, and I had to walk right past her through this narrow hallway. And I remember like looking at her before I passed, and she just stared at the ground. And I was just so concerned that she was going to reach out, but she never did. And I walked out, and right at the exit of the school was this like a GT red sports car. This was my social worker car. And I'm like, cool. Wow, what have I been missing? And the social worker comes out and introduces herself to me and my counselor. And I get into the car, and she's like, I understand your little brother is at home alone, 6 years old. So we're going to go to your house and we're going to try to pick him up. And I thought, oh, fantastic. So we get to my house, and she says, oh, and I should say the house was about 2 blocks away from my high school. So I was worried that, if we spent very much time there, my mom would be back very fast and hell would be unleashed. So we're knocking on the door. She's like, you can't enter because technically you've been removed from care. And if you enter, it will be a break and enter and you could be charged. Let's not do that. Like, oh, okay. So I can't go in my house, can't get any of my stuff. Banging on the door. Ross, answer the door, answer the door. No answer. We're banging, we're yelling. Neighbors are looking out the window and they've seen social workers at my house before. They're banging. We can't see him, can't hear him, don't know where he is. And then we hear from behind us, get the fuck off my property. So
Oh.
mom's home. Um, Social worker says, Kate, get in the car. I get in the car. And as I get into the car, I see my brother open the door. So if we'd had 10 more seconds, we would have had my brother in care.
Hmm.
Um, Life.
Yeah.
So we drive away. My mom goes in the house with my brother, and I never stepped foot in that house again.
Wow.
Um, and that night, I spent in a hotel room with the social worker, and The next day, we went to the office and I met a new social worker, and I learned that getting attached to a safe adult was not something I could really rely on at this point because already I thought that first social worker was so cool, red car, probably in her 20s, fresh out of
Yeah.
school, a hero,
Yeah.
pretty girl. And I thought, wow, social workers are awesome. She's going to be like my new big sister. And I never saw her again.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Why
and
do you why do you think your mom was the way she was?
um, I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Mother Dearest, Mommy Dearest, but my mother told me that hers was very much like the mother portrayed in that film. And there's one scene in particular that my mom said happened to her very similarly, where um, the mother trashes the bathroom, there's baby powder and makeup and water and just crap everywhere. And then the mother drags the daughter in and says, clean this mess up.
Mm,
So a lot of mistreatment, again, not necessarily being beaten. And I think that's the obvious call to abuse and violence is the physical assault. But when that's not there and it's less obvious, I think that
mhm.
can be so damaging.
Yeah, emotional abuse is, yeah, is so damaging. And sometimes we don't recognize it. We don't see it for what it is. But it sounds like intimidation, with the hand around the neck and, never actually striking, but scaring someone. And yeah, I know even with my mom, she had her trauma and her trauma affected us. And I had a baby at 14 and my brothers are drug addicts and my niece died and it's just people not being able to deal with their shit and just can't face it or whatever. And I think that the fabulous thing about the generation that we have now is that we're more open. We want to deal with things. We want to heal so that our kids can have better lives and our grandkids can have better lives. And I think for my mom anyway, for her, you just didn't go to counseling. It was, shut up, don't talk about it, carry on with life. But it comes out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely does.
Yeah. So how did you heal? What did you do to help yourself? Because you've come a long way.
One beautiful trait I believe I inherited from my mom was her spirituality, believe it or not. My mom lost her virginity very late in life, and she was going to be a nun. Um, she
Oh.
was raised Catholic, as was I. Um, and then she, whoops, got pregnant, and a one night stand, and I came along. That kind of shifted things. And I, I when I was a young girl, I remember I was caught on the balcony once and I was just making this noise, she said, this like melodic, there's like a tone and some, rhythm to it, but it wasn't really words. And she said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm singing to God to save the world.
Oh.
And she said, okay, keep singing.
Oh.
I would go up to trees and I would hug them and I would thank them for the air. And only later did I learn that when you hug trees, it can actually help to regulate your nervous system. So there
Yes.
may have been some things there that I was tapping into. Um, and I really held on to that connection with the natural elements and felt this interconnection with air and with earth and with water, just how everything is really blended together and nothing is fully separate. And for me, that's how I find God or find my spirituality. And that has been a immense part of my healing journey. It's very individual, it's very solitary. Um, and at the same time, it's completely not, because it's just interwoven with all of the energy in the world around me. Um, so being in the present moment, I went into college after high school, and I got a social worker degree because I wanted to save my mom. But I also learned a lot about self-care and meditation. And I wish I meditated more. I'm sure it would do me wonders. I
Hmm.
don't. But I do practice being in the present moment so much that it's really part of just how I move through the world. I notice that perfect leaf on the sidewalk, and it brings me, it sparks my joy, so finding those little beautiful items that we have no control over, that you cannot predict, again and again and again. There is so much beauty in this world, and it's not that difficult to find on Vancouver Island.
No,
So
no.
I just nurture that.
Yeah. So gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
gratitude for health,
Yes.
for health and for awareness.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think grace. I was so angry once I got into high school because I went from that final social worker office in East Van to a group home in East Van, which was rough. Staff were buying the kids smokes, and I didn't know what was what. Um, and then my mother actually moved to Vancouver Island for a business opportunity that fell through. And I had followed her out to Vancouver Island and moved into a permanent foster home. And that's how I ended up on the island. Only a few months after I'd come out to be closer, she retreated back to the mainland with my brother, and I stayed here.
Hmm.
Um, so, grace and gratitude. And I think from so early, I learned that so much is not in our control. And there's when you can just surrender that, there it can just be so uplifting. Like, thank
Yes.
God it's not all in my control.
Yes.
So much
Yes.
to carry.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, so many people do place a lot of shame and blame as well. And I find that the shame is, oh, it just keeps you so down and it keeps you from living.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so hard to not get lost in the what ifs
Yeah.
or the blame.
Yeah.
After I left, my mom spiraled, and she is now an addict with, her housing is so unstable. My little brother ended up moving into foster care at the same age, at 12, voluntarily as well. And I remember going over to visit him and her after he'd been placed into care. So I went and met him, and we went to go see mom in the house she was now squatting in. Um, and just needles and drugs and no heat, no electricity, just a mess. Another time I went to visit, she was in a flipped over shopping cart, with cardboard and bags behind a church. And
Oh,
so it's just, had I not left, would things have been different? I don't know. I was 12.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think
um,
by, I don't, I don't know, but just my thought process is you had to save yourself. And that's what you did. And we can't save other people if they don't want to be saved.
mhm.
We can't help them if they don't want help. My mom would have ended up there had I not been able to afford a place for her to live. And I always say to people that, my mom lived the same 30 days all her life. Nothing would ever changed. And and I think there's times we have to do what we can to save ourselves. And that's how I I just knew I can't. I
Hmm.
still love, of course. I love my mom, I love my brothers, but I can't be around them because they're not healthy and it's not mentally healthy for me. So I think that sometimes people think, oh, well, if I can't separate myself from them because then I'm a bad daughter or this or that and I think it's vital to do it. And again, it doesn't mean you don't care, doesn't mean you don't love, doesn't mean any of that kind of thing because family is family. We don't get to pick them, or maybe we do, who knows? But but on this life, we don't get to pick them. Um, and we need to do what we can for ourselves because we matter too. So I think you did the right thing.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
And even and for myself, I remember the day that I knew I had to distance myself. I couldn't have my kids around my family. And that was so hard
Mm.
for me to do. And my youngest didn't even hardly remember my mom, which I always feel it tugs at my heart, right? But I had to do it. They were unhealthy, you
Yeah,
know? And the
it's
same for
hard.
you. So, we and you deserve a good life on this planet. And your
Mm.
daughter, your sweet little daughter deserves a good life. And so, had you not made that decision when you were 12, and mums make their own decisions,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yes. Who is the adult? Who is the child? And
Yeah,
I can absolutely relate, and sure many people can. You can love family members that are not treating themselves well.
yeah.
I will always have love for my mom. I will always care deeply for her. Uh, our relationship today is so volatile. There's just so much unaddressed baggage there from me leaving and her sense of abandonment by her daughter, my sense of neglect from my mom, and years lost. And now, what I find the most difficult to reconcile is the loss of potential. You know, she has this amazing granddaughter and this amazing opportunity to be part of a bigger family.
Hmm.
My family's expanded with my partner, and I'm still very close with my foster family who live in the same city as me now. Um, there's there's a lot of beautiful people in my life that I wish I could share, and a lot of experiences and traveling and holidays, and I wish.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
as as I said in my story, in your book, I said, when life gives you crap, you get a new life.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
you just
yeah,
gotta kind of turn it. And I think it's okay to have those boundaries. So I've said
yeah,
to my mom, since the 2 years that I wrote my story, we've come together, my mother and I, a couple of times to communicate. We've had a couple visits. It seems like every every few years we'll have a falling out. We'll need space, and that's been our pattern over the last 10
yeah,
years.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so right now we're at a spot where it gets so combative. Uh,
Hmm.
I said, I think we should talk about having a mediator. She is just so not there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and I said,
yeah,
you could pick one or I could pick one.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't think that that's really going to be a space we can move into. When you're barely housed, technology is not really something you've got
No,
capacity to maintain.
yeah,
A schedule,
yeah,
making an appointment on time,
yeah.
being in a video call, like these are not, it's not realistic.
No,
We don't, like,
no.
I live on the island, she lives on the mainland, so we're hours apart.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and
Yeah,
one final thing that I think of when I look at the patterns of our communication now as an adult, um, there can be some amazing conversations, and sometimes we'll talk and her mother insight just turns on. And it's such a stark contrast to the the pattern of what's happened for us. It shakes me for days. And I'm like, oh, maybe this time it'll be different. And it's not. It's a
Hmm.
moment.
Yes.
It's a conversation and then it's over.
Yeah.
And that shakiness, that bleeds into my relationship with my daughter because I'm sad or I'm unsteady and my partner hears about it. And I don't, I think my boundaries are evolving.
Yeah.
They're going to
Yeah.
continue to evolve, but I
Yeah.
know now that I need to have a lot more space
Hmm.
between my mom and I because it's not just about me being upset anymore.
Yeah.
I'm responsible to be on because I have a
Yeah.
3-year old.
Yeah.
I have to be aware and present for her. So
Hmm.
um,
Well, and at this stage, she's mentally ill. You can't be living like you can't live under a shopping cart and not be mentally ill. So the drugs that so many people are taking, I know from firsthand experiences that they just are not the same people. And they're not in reality. And
yeah.
it's so sad to see. And it's just so sad because there's no sense of of worthiness there. And
Hmm.
so I think it's beautiful that you get those little glimpses of your mom. And, I can certainly see that they shake you. I get that. I get that. But really, it to be able to still see that she's in there.
Yeah.
She's still
Mhm.
in there.
Yeah,
But
it almost makes it harder. Like
yeah,
it would almost be easier if it was just always a mess. But
yes.
the fact that
Yeah.
we could bounce back and forth makes
Yeah.
it so unpredictable.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
struggle with that. I struggle
Yeah.
with it a lot. A couple of years ago, she got she got herself onto regular welfare and they were able to cover her training for her to become a flagger with a construction company. And that was the
Ah,
first job I ever saw her have. And she got that just around the time my daughter was born. So I thought, whoa, change.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
maybe this time,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
And I will say she's held it for years. She still has this position.
Wow.
So she has a room that she rents. So she's housed and she has been for a couple of years now. And so it gives that maybe factor,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
little bit of hope,
Yeah.
but still the communication is there's so much blame
Yeah.
and so much hurt.
Hmm.
And also I've become a little bit jaded. Um, and my patience is very low. She's
Hmm.
always been quite eccentric, talks a mile a minute, incredibly animated, loud, takes up a lot of space, always has. Also, one of the funniest people I've ever met, but I just have very low patience for it because now when we talk, it's drama with the landlord, it's drama with the bitch that lives around the corner, it's
Yeah.
drama with that asshole that took her bike or her phone's fucked or it's
Yeah.
just messy
Yeah.
and that's exhausting
Yeah. Yeah.
exhausting to listen to and to support so
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. Your mom sounds quite a bit like my mom. Yeah, I don't think I ever saw my mom smile after the time I was 10. Yeah, just one big grump and it was everybody's fault. And but you just for our sanity, because you have to be more concerned about your sanity than hers, because you have it, you have to have your life and your daughter and your partner and your friends and all the good, be able to accept all the good things in your life. And so, for me, I just always thought, she's sick. It
Yeah.
is what it is. I'm not going to take it personally. Just what can I do? There's nothing I can do. She's going to be this way forever. And so I just did like you, set up some boundaries. I limited my time uh, and did what I could. But uh, but yeah, you just can't. And it would be like anybody. We can't be around people that bring us down, that tear us down,
Mhm.
and they don't even know they do it, and then they hang up or they go on their merry way, and we're left going, oh my goodness, I just like I gotta go to bed for 2 days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, I of course know your whole story, Catherine, and it's um it's uh it's a lot more than what the little bit that you told us, for sure. And I think, you've you've come out of it pretty good. You got a good head on your shoulders, you've got a lovely daughter, and you've got yourself a great education, and you've got good friends, and here you are able to talk about it. A lot of people can't even talk about it.
Yeah.
So you're helping. You don't know who's listening to us right now that is going to gain some insight or a little bit of, oh, I need to set boundaries, or maybe I need to distance myself, or, I'm having this problem with my mom and I feel guilty about it, but maybe I don't need to feel guilty. Maybe I just need to
Hmm.
take care of
Totally.
myself,
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's just so important that people hear our stories.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
I really have to give thanks and more gratitude to the healthy people that I did intentionally try to surround myself with.
yeah,
Because at 12, you're not sure if this is normal or not. And so you get that validation. And then as you grow older, you can see what healthy relationships look like.
yeah,
And also that turning inward and that mindfulness. I after the social work degree, I went back and I got a master's in education, and I did that to look more into curriculum and how programs are written, what's underneath all of the instruction, what's underneath how we learn and why we learn what we learn. As with many master's degrees, I don't use any of that at my job now, but it was still a great exercise, and I I think being around those sorts of relationships and having those sorts of conversations with really healthy adults, intellectual people wanting to read and write and speak and then being able to meet others like my partner and having other hobbies that are, well, again, I keep using the word inward, but uh, are grounding. Like
yes,
I'm an avid knitter and crocheter because you really can't do much else or think. It's it's almost like a meditation. Um, and I've got my daughter very excited about gardening. We've got a bunch of vegetables and fruit and trees and flowers and garden beds in the backyard that we take care of year round. And again, being that close to nature and having our hands in the dirt, it's such a healthy practice. And baking cookies every other week. It's things that I wasn't taught.
hmm,
It's almost like I'm continuing to do healing and like it's like a life therapy, like present moment therapy, finding these, whether it's studying in a degree or putting my hands, digging up a huge hole to put an apple tree into, it's working towards something calm and something that has some sort of end result that I'll be able to see, but really just trying to embrace the process, like
yeah, yeah,
knitting, crocheting, gardening.
yeah,
Those aren't things you do just for an end result. Most of that is process.
yes,
So,
yes, yes. And
recognize,
what a wonderful example for your daughter.
yeah,
What wonderful, like that's the thing, we may not have had those kinds of things, but we can give them So, we can stop. And that's what you're doing. You're still struggling a bit, and that's okay, but you've stopped that abuse, you've stopped that craziness in your own life, and now your daughter isn't going to have to deal with any of that because you got the courage to wake up and say, okay, as difficult as this is, I'm going to get myself on track. I'm going to be a better mom. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to do all of those things that can help me. And not everybody can do that, Catherine.
I One thing I write about in my story is my teenage years. So when I moved to Vancouver Island, I landed in an amazing foster home that I stayed in until I was 19.
Yeah.
One family and incredible. I was given a lot of tough love. uh, and I think it was exactly what I needed. And I
Yes.
know, you know, people are going to need different things to help support them and get them through the tough times.
Yes.
Tough love, the boundaries, respect. I lashed out and I partied and I AWOL'd and I did things I shouldn't have done. But thank God I got it out of my system when I was a youth.
Yes.
I'm so grateful for that, that I didn't carry it
Yes.
into past 19.
Yes.
As soon as I was in grade 11, my foster mom was like, okay, so you were like, she put me in volunteering when I was 13. So I'd been volunteering all my life. And
Yeah.
even into adulthood, I volunteer on boards of charities. That's that service. And
Yes.
God, it's just, thank God I had that rock
Yes.
to hold me up.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I wish that more children that had such shaky, uncertain times could have, I wouldn't say it was rigid, but it was full. you know
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
in rugby for years in high school. I was in volunteering whether I liked it or not. um and I ended up just wanting to stay in forever. And then as soon as I hit grade 11, she was like, "What college do you want to go to?" I was like, "What are you talking about, college?" She's like, "Oh, you're going. Let's go look at programs. What do you like? You like trees? You want to do geography or what?" I was like, "Oh, I like people." She's like, "Oh, social work, of course."
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's wonderful. And I thank you for sharing that because if there's anybody out there that's struggling, look around maybe it's an auntie, maybe it's a grandma, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's the counselor at the school, maybe it's your best friend, maybe it's your best friend's mom. There's somebody out there that sees the worth and will be there to help. We just have to be able to open our eyes and see it and look for it because it'll come. Yeah.
Have a little bit of
Well,
trust.
Catherine, this has been a fabulous conversation, and I appreciate you so much coming and doing it. I just know that your story is going to be able to reach out to people and help people. I just know it. So, everyone, I want to let you know that we will have in the show notes some details to reach out to Catherine. So, if you wanted to do that, we'll have those in the show notes. So that will be there. So, Catherine, in closing, what would you like to say to anybody who's listening?
So cliche. You really have to be your own best friend. No one is going to know you more than you know yourself, how you're feeling, what you want, what you're worried about, and what you would love to plan. Always think about what you want to do and appreciate that life is mostly process. So, getting
Yes.
there is the majority of life.
Yes, you're so right. So right. That was excellent for so to leave them with advice. So once again, Catherine, thank you so much for doing this. Everyone, um, uh, yeah, take it to heart, people. If you're struggling, if you feel like you need some help, find somebody that can help you, um, and uh, and just take care of yourself because you are your own best friend for sure. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.